and welcome to this week's Thrive Programme podcast. Today I'm joined by Bobby Carlin, who is one of our coaches over in Ireland, and we're going to be talking today about thriving. What is thriving? What does a thriving life look like? Hi, Bobby. How you doing?
Hi, Lucy. Yeah, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
You're very welcome. So it's an interesting one, this, because a lot of the episodes that we've put out so far, obviously a lot of the time we're talking about a mental health issue, overcoming a specific symptom, how people have done that. But today we're primarily talking about the goalpost, as in where your life can get to, because you can overcome depression and that's lovely. Obviously, it's much nicer than having it, but it doesn't mean you're necessarily thriving. So what do we mean by thriving? What do you understand it to be?
Okay. I know this sounds a bit cliche, but it is living your best life, being the best version of yourself. But there are lots of mistakes that people make, Lucy, and that's what I see most often. So lots of questions I get asked, it almost sounds like thriving is perfection. It's being happy all the time. It's never being scared. All of that stuff that we know is absolute nonsense. You know that, I know that as coaches doing this stuff day in, day out. But what thriving is having the attitude is I'm never going to let that stop me. So it doesn't matter if I don't feel like getting up and going to work today. Doesn't matter if I don't feel like making dinner or speaking at that event. I said I'm going to do it, so I'm going to do it. And I suppose it's before we do these things, there's anxiety, there's nervousness. It's only after you do them that's when you feel the benefit. That's when you feel confidence. So thriving it's an attitude. It's an attitude and it's a set of skills. And I suppose that's what drew me to the Thrive program, coming from a counselling background, is instead of just talking about stuff, how do we actually do that? Breaking that down.
Yeah.
And I think I teed you up in terms of one of the things I wanted to talk about in terms of taking responsibility, taking accountability for ourselves, which is really hard to do sometimes. It's much easier to play the victim, to have the pity party, and hey ho, I'm guilty of that myself. Sometimes I think we all are, but that leaves you stuck. There's nothing I can do about that. If that's happening to me, then however, if we then think, right, well, what can I do about that? The world changes.
Yeah. So what was your coming into the Thrive program? Obviously, you've done the Thrive program and then trained up to be a coach. What's changed in your life?
I would say everything's changed. I think you have to change. Obviously, the thing that doesn't change is who you are as a person, your integrity, your morals, your principles. But apart from that, everything changes because you're challenged. You're challenged to apply this stuff in real life. So I suppose one of my biggest feelings might have been, well, other people might have bigger feelings, Lucy, for me, but might have been procrastinating.
Yeah.
Putting stuff off, I'll do that later. That sounds like a great idea. But when you learn the skills about thriving, you learn to ask yourself, well, why can't I do that now? Or why would I leave that to someone else to do? I've got those skills. I could get stuck in there. I could help out. But also, interestingly, I suppose I hadn't thought about this too much, but it also might be letting go of a lot of stuff.
Mm.
Well, why do I have to do that? That's what. Why is it always me? That's not adding much to my life at this stage. I've really been trying with that friend for 2 years, and still they don't seem to want to help themselves. So maybe I'll just let that be.
Yeah. And I guess what are the things that stop people from letting those things go? It'll be the social pressure, the perfectionism, the fear of, or the worry of. When you've got a skill set for managing those things, then it's much easier to navigate those bits of your life.
Yeah, and I think as well, Lucy, when you've got low self-esteem, then it's much, you almost feel obliged that you have to help and do everything for everybody.
Yeah.
Whereas whenever you really, feel good about yourself and you know that you're doing as much as you can do, then you can let things go an awful lot easier. And I heard a phrase a long time ago, and I use it daily at this stage. It's not my monkey, not my circus. So is this my responsibility? Is it up to me to sort the situation out? Because I have plenty of stuff going on in my circus,
Yes.
plenty of things to manage in my life, and leaving that stuff then for the appropriate person or people.
Yeah, which is a good way of establishing boundaries, isn't it? And like you say, not trying to do everything for everybody, but recognizing it's okay for other people to figure stuff out for themselves, that you don't have to do it for them, or you don't have to rescue everybody the whole time. That's their job to rescue themselves. So it's a good way of looking at the boundaries.
Yeah, and not only that, actually, it's really counterproductive
Mm.
to overstep the mark. One of the groups of people I deal with a lot would be parents and children, or just the parents. And this is one of the topics, Lucy, that we talk about all the time. Is a lot of the times, so I describe it, whenever I grew up, we were told to go out and play and come back for dinner. So you were basically kicked out in the morning, and don't come back in and annoy me until dinner time. So maybe not enough parenting or not enough observation, possibly in that area. But these days, we're over parenting as a general rule, and parents are alongside and doing everything for the children, and that robs them of the feel good factor of being able to deal with situations and being proud of themselves.
Yeah, and having to think for themselves and having to assess risks for themselves and having to make mistakes and then find their way back out of them. It's a big thing, isn't it? That I think these society at the moment makes it a bit harder with technology and with tracking on phones and things like that. It's very easy to stifle children from having to learn.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to be critical here. And most times it's done out of love.
Yeah.
Parents really love their kids and they want to give them a better experience, and they don't want them to have to suffer. But that's not reality. Reality is life can be tough at times. People can be really nasty. I mean, that starts at school. Um, and it's given the children then, or given other people, given them the skills, given them the responsibility to. I remember one time, Lucy, I heard a great example from it was a primary school principal, and the nursery kids were coming in for the parent induction day, and the principal, the first thing he said was, "Please don't do anything for your children that they can do for themselves."
Mm,
Because if you do, you're making my life harder, and you're making the teachers' lives harder, and you're making it difficult for the kids.
mm,
I thought, wow, that was insightful.
mm, mm. Well, that was your, like you say, your upbringing. That was it. That was that, wasn't it? It was almost like you're responsible for your day. I'm going to be here. Dinner's at this time. But giving you that responsibility, giving you that power to make decisions and figure out what you're going to do and whose door you were going to knock on to go out to play with. That was all a similar upbringing.
Yeah, I mean, we learn by doing, don't we? We don't learn by people telling us. I came across a study one time, Lucy. It was on a television program somewhere, and it split the group of kids. They were trying to get kids into healthy eating, so it split them into two different groups. So one group of kids, they spent an hour or two educating them, telling them all the reasons for healthy eating, and really kind of giving them all of the information. And the other group of kids, they took them into the kitchen, and they didn't tell them anything. They just got them to prepare stuff, chop stuff up, fruit and veg and stuff. Now, out of those two groups, which group do you think ate more of the fruit and vegetables?
Yeah, the practical team.
Yeah, they weren't encouraged. They weren't asked to try anything.
Mm,
They just instinctively.
Mm,
They were involved, they were curious, and they did that.
mm, mm.
And that's one of the elements I love about the Thrive program. I mean, it is quite challenging. I mean, I was quite challenged doing the program, to change some of my training and some of my learning, but it's also so freeing. Then, you know, once you put this stuff into practice, once you start doing it, once you've learned a better way of doing things,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's difficult then to go back to the old habits.
Yeah. What did you have to unlearn then? So you were trained to be a counsellor. What did you have to unlearn?
Well, I suppose there might have been an element of me thinking that, maybe just listening and being there for people and being supportive and being nice was going to be enough,
Yeah.
or that was always helpful. Um, and
Saying it's not. Your Thrive session's the opposite.
well, it's a prerequisite. If you don't really care about people,
No, I know.
if you're not really there to help other people out, then you're probably in the wrong job. So I really do care about people, honestly. But it's about giving the skills,
Yes.
and challenging people. Okay, that's been really difficult for you. This has happened, that's happened. Um, you've never had anyone show you this before. But have you ever thought about doing it this way? You know, some of the examples I sometimes give to people, Lucy, is that if you come across anybody who's really inspirational, so sometimes I throw out names like, I don't know, Mel Robbins or Wayne Dyer or Louise Hay. They're really inspirational speakers. They're authors. They're well known. But have you ever listened to their backstories? So their childhood or their circumstances, they're always really traumatic, really difficult. But they have then used those circumstances to help, to spend the rest of their lives basically helping and informing other people.
Mm.
So it's not that because I think that's the biggest difference between counselling and thriving people. It's that challenge function to say, okay, and so what are you going to do about that now?
Yeah. Yeah, that's happened. Or yes, that is a low self-esteem. Or yes, you do have that fear or that insecurity. So what? And I think we're better at, but there's something you can do about that now, or you can untrain that, or you can learn to think about it differently, or you can let it go, or you can forgive the person. There's always some way of feeling more powerful, more in control today going forward.
Absolutely, absolutely. I remember one time working with a business guy, and he'd lost a lot of money in a kind of property deal, and there was a process going on for him to try and recover this money. And I spent a few weeks with him because my background is in finance, so I spent a few weeks with him, kind of trying to explore all the avenues to get this, because it was a lot of money. Um, But what we discovered was this guy had actually taken all the steps he could possibly take to recover the money. But he was going to have to wait a year or two for the outcome of the bankruptcy and stuff like that, to kind of, for the company that he'd invested in. So once we got to that point, my question to him was, right, okay, so it's going to take a year or two. What way do you want to spend that year or two? Do you want to spend it with your kids, your grandkids? Do you want to go on holidays? Do you want to have a nice time? Or do you want to tell everybody about it? Do you want to be really bitter with it? And I think that was pretty transformative then, to, okay, it's not nice, but once I've done everything I can do about it, I can then accept the situation.
Yeah. And it's powerful, isn't it? Because I think one of the key things I learned from the Thrive program is that there's always a choice. And that choice might not be in circumstances, but there's always a choice in how you look at things, the perspective that you take, how you think about stuff, how much you focus on something. And I think even if things are really tricky, just knowing I've got some power over how I think about it helps you to focus on the bits that you can influence. That's a really good example of that. You've got a choice in how you spend this next year.
Absolutely, a choice in every single thing. Yeah, I love the little podium, where, or the image that you see of someone in first place and second
Yes.
place and third place. So the person in third place is yes, you know, and the person in first and second are kind of yeah.
Not looking so happy. Yeah, it's perspective, isn't it? It's all relative. But that's that podium picture. I'll have to dig it out and maybe I'll put it in the show notes. It's a really good example of that thriving is a choice. You can come first, but be upset that you didn't get as good a time as you wanted, or you only just won, or but you could come third, and it's the best day of your life. It's
Yeah.
all just a matter of perspective and the way that you think about things.
Yeah, yeah, it's a choice, and then it also then becomes a habit. And I suppose that's one of the other things that I talk to people a lot about. They say it has to come into every area of your life. Um, if you're really thriving, you're taking care of yourself physically. You're taking care of yourself financially. You're having a look at your relationships and thinking, is this a good relationship? Is this a toxic relationship? So you're making these choices. Is this helping me? And it's not always easy. It's the other thing I think sometimes gets mistaken is people are looking for quick fixes. So sometimes I have a nice little chat with someone and they say, right, this is a 6-week program. This is great. Or, I say to them, I don't want to take you on. Genuinely, I don't want to take you through the program if your attitude is, let's do this in 6 weeks. Because that's like a body transformation program. I'll lose 2 stone in 6 weeks. And I'll put 3 stone back on 6 weeks later. So yes, it takes 6 weeks to take you through the program, but then you're applying the principles, you're applying the learning constantly. And it's interesting. It's fun. It's your psychology. It's not it's not boring stuff.
But it does require you to look at, like you said, every bit of your life and have an honest look at what's working, what's not working, what could I do better, where can I take a bit more responsibility, where do I need to work a bit harder. If I want to be fitter, I can't just sit around and wait for that to happen. I've got to make some choices, build up the habits to make that change happen in my life. That's the accountability, isn't it? The taking responsibility piece.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, old Bobby would definitely have been feeling sorry for himself when he started cycling 5 or 6 years ago. I was going 3 or 4 times a week, and still everybody else seemed to be stronger and fitter. And but once you started to realize this, well, these guys have the muscle memory; they've been doing it for 5 or 10 years. Or actually, a couple of these guys are training every day of the week. So yes, I'm doing really well. I'm training 3 times a week. But these guys are training 5 times a week. Then that gives you the freedom. So do I want to make the choice to train 5 or 6 times a week and get to their level of fitness? Or actually, am I happy to enjoy it, get fitter, have my burger after the training and enjoy it?
Yeah. And that comes back to having that sort of internal frame of reference, doesn't it? If you know what you want and you're happy with what goals you've set yourself, then it's easier to not be swept up into what everybody else is doing.
Yeah. There was a girl I was chatting to one time, Lucy, and she was asking me about how do I get away with working 3 or 4 days a week. I get a lot of stick for this, by the way, from friends and family as well.
How do you get away with working 3 or 4 days a week? Yeah. Go on.
Basically, yeah. So I said to her, I could probably help you with this. It's about choices and consequences. So I said to her, have you got 5 minutes? So she said yes. And the first question I asked her was, well, what car do you drive? And and she laughed. And I asked her, what was she laughing about? So she loved to drive a new car. And she changed the car every 3 years. That was her thing. And I said, look, there you go. There's 1 day a week that you're working to pay for your new car. which is fine. I've no problem with that. But I would rather have my day off and drive my 10-year-old car. It was actually about 15 years at that stage. It was a good car. Um, but I was making the choice to have the day off as opposed to committing to an extra day at work. Um, and that's one of the things I hear a lot is um, people saying, I have to do this.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, nah, you definitely don't have to do it.
No, it feels like you do because there are pressures, there's bills, there's what other people are doing, and there's all these pressures that make it feel like we have to do it. But do we actually? What about people that aren't doing it? What about if I'm living life by my terms, by what I want out of life and not what everybody else is doing? So that's one of the changes in you then that you made having gone through the Thrive program, was to have your Bobby day.
Yeah, I knew you were going to bring up Bobby Day, Lucy. Yeah, absolutely. I suppose it was maybe always kind of in the background. I never really subscribed to life being about working and being more, my attitude has kind of always been about you can't take stuff with you. We're here for a short time. Um, so we have to make the most of this. And that's really countercultural, actually, especially as a man. Um, you know, a lot of the guys, a lot of friends of mine, they're constantly giving you abuse about your lack of work. Um, but actually, when you have a conversation with them one on one, they all admit that they're a little bit jealous
Mm-hmm.
that I've got the time.
Mm-hmm.
So how am I out in the bike at 5 o'clock and they're not getting home from work till 6:30, 7 o'clock? Choices. I'm not getting paid. you know.
Yeah,
Uh,
but if you're not motivated by that, or you are motivated enough to pay the bills and look after the kids, and you're a normal family man from that point of view, and you have your holidays and stuff, but you just choose to look after yourself and keep the stress levels at a level and all the rest of it by having a day to yourself where you can do things that you want to do, things that make you happy. If you can look after yourself, then you're a much better dad. You're a much better uh, counselor slash thrive coach, depending on which client you're seeing.
yeah, yeah. I mean, there's that example of the airplane, of getting on the airplane, and if you're traveling with children and young infants, um, if in the event of an emergency, you know, whose mask do you put on first? And if you don't put your mask on first before you help your children, then nobody might survive that incident.
Yeah, yeah,
And I think that's the biggest mistake I see people make, and I find it really sad, Lucy, because generally these are the nicest people. They have all the good intentions, um, but they've never been taught self worth, self value, like genuinely taking time, taking care of themselves, um, whatever that involves. So if you don't have any money, and then there's no point having 7 days a week off. If you need to pay bills, then you need to be out working and working more, so you have those things. But it's just this ability to check in with yourself every day. Um, how am I doing today? How am I doing this week? What is it I need? Do I need to work a little bit more? Do I need to exercise a bit more? Do I need to take care of my diet? Do I need to spend time with my wife, with my kids? You know, what what do I need to do to take care of my life?
yeah, yeah.
I mean, if I ask you a question, Lucy, so if you're getting, really frustrated and you're doing these podcasts every day and you're seeing loads of clients and you're kind of getting a bit burnt out, what do you like to be around?
What am I?
What do you like to be around? How do your
Oh,
friends and family find you? How do the kids find you?
much shorter, much less patient, much busier. Because if your stress levels go up, I know I tend to try and do more to try and. It's like a paradox, isn't it? Yeah, no, not much fun. I'll be rushing around, being busy, but not really being productive, not really taking care of myself, and not really taking care of anything that needs taking care of.
And in those circumstances, would you say that you're a better mother, you're a better wife, you're a better coach when you're at that stage?
No,
Okay, so let's flip it around then, right? I think this is the key thing for people. So let's flip it around, and you've done this brilliant program, and you've done some work on yourself, and you're feeling great. You've got loads of energy. You've been to the gym. You're eating well. What do you like to be around the kids now?
Oh yeah, you're present, you're um, energized, you're able to listen to them and uh, genuinely listen to them without sort of fixing or jumping ahead to what you think they need to hear. It's a total different dynamic at home, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's interesting. That last bit, you kind of hinted there that you're more patient, so you're more likely to kind of sit back and let the kids, because you've got time now.
Yeah.
You've got time and you've got patience, so you're more likely to sit back and help them to figure stuff out for themselves.
100%. Yeah, yeah. You sleep better. I think I often think it's like your inside, I guess your behaviors on the outside are an indication as to the world on the inside. And if you see people that are running around and they're busy and they're super successful and they've always got things going on, it's not for me, I think my understanding of success and, like you said, the values and what motivates me have changed over the years. That would have been how I would have done life. But now I'm far more about, an actual connection with somebody, giving people time and attention rather than trying to do 15 things at once.
Yeah, I have noticed that, Lucy. Actually, the number of holidays you were on this summer, and your, I think it's pretty good evidence that your priorities have changed over the last few years.
Yeah, no, for sure. But like you say, it's a constant. It's not a constant in it's hard work, but I think thriving, being self aware, and having an understanding of the potential stresses and the pressures in life. Having kids and having a job and having bills to pay. That's never going to change. But all the more reason for you to look after yourself first and foremost and make those decisions in the day. Well, actually, if I do that, that's going to be too much, or that might be a bit too busy for now, so let that go. And I think making those little adjustments just as you go through your day, week, months is a big part of thriving.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the examples I often use is, if I make a cup of tea, I'm having a cup of tea. I'm going to enjoy it, or a cup of coffee. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to take the 5 or 10 minutes. I'm not making phone calls. I'm not, um, that basic time. So it doesn't have to be a Bobby day. It doesn't have to be a full day. Those are nice. Uh, but it can just be just taking half an hour. I remember when the kids were babies or infants, and I remember they would have a nap during the day. It might have been 30 minutes. It might have been an hour. But my rule, even at that stage, was right when they're sleeping. I'm actually just going to take time now to sit down, get something to eat in peace.
Yeah.
You know, so I can kind of tidy up. I can kind of work around when they're awakened. So there's just the small, and that's the other thing we say about thriving. It's not the big things. It's the small everyday habits. It's even just that waking up and just thinking it's good to be alive. You know, aren't I lucky I can drive my kids to school this morning, or I can see them in the morning? You know, having that kind of attitude to start the day. Um, so it's not thriving isn't about big grand gestures of parachute jumps or um, I don't know, promotions or winning races. It's the small everyday habits and choices that um, yeah. Uh, I seen a something on Facebook last night, so, and it was someone who described that if at 59, if someone had told them that they had 5 years left to live, um, they would have been really disappointed and really devastated. But now at 64, if someone told them they had 3 months left to live, they would be over the moon because they hadn't got 3 months left. They maybe had 3 days left. It's that change of perspective, you know. And we're only guaranteed today. So let's even this podcast, let's enjoy it. Let's have a bit of fun with it. Um, I did promise you I was going to throw in a few swear words just to get you to have to edit them out, but I'll be on good behaviour, Lucy. So it's just trying to enjoy even the and being present even in the difficult times.
Yeah, and that's what you said at the beginning, didn't you? That it's a mindset, it's an attitude. It's an attitude towards your life, it's an attitude towards difficulties that you've got to navigate through. You did have a cycling accident, didn't you? Was it about a year ago? And that was could have been a big event pre-Thrive, or to somebody that didn't have good coping skills and stuff. How did you apply your Thrive mindset through that?
Well, actually, one of the things I was most proud of happened when I wasn't fully conscious. So it was quite a bad cycling accident. Don't worry, Lucy, it's clean. It's okay. So it was quite a bad cycling accident. I broke my arm, broke my wrist, and I was knocked out for about 5 minutes. Um, so I don't remember anything of the accident. The first thing I remember is being on the back of the ambulance. But genuinely, I was having great fun. And the ambulance drivers and my wife came about an hour later when she got there from work, and like I was just laughing constantly, having the crack with them, because what could I do? The accident had happened. I had really good pain medication, so I genuinely actually enjoyed. That sounds really weird, but I enjoyed the crack in the ambulance. I I actually didn't mind being in the hospital. I spent 2 days until I got the surgery, and it was all fine. It wasn't difficult. Uh, at that stage, it was just normal. Um, People had asked me about would I be scared about getting back on the bike. No, as soon as I was physically able to get on the bike, actually, well, I think it's a funny story. But like the week after, I kind of thought to myself, I'll step on the indoor bike. I'll try this out just to see how I got on. But I got on the bike and my arm started swelling up because the blood was pumping round. So I kind of thought I'll give that a miss for now.
Wrong choice, Bobby.
Yes, but the attitude was that
Yeah. So the attitude was there, and you weren't necessarily enjoying the experience, but you were making the experience enjoyable by the way that you were approaching it and managing it and handling it. And because you can't change the fact that you're now in hospital needing surgery, but you can choose your attitude towards it, you can choose your mindset towards it. And because you'd practiced that and you that's the way that you do your life, that was how you approach that situation like you would any.
Yeah, and genuinely, I'm not making this stuff up. From the moment I was conscious, genuinely, I was thankful to be alive and
Yeah.
to be able to talk. And again, focusing on what I could control, Lucy. So I wasn't letting the thoughts. I didn't even actually have any thoughts about. So I remember being taken in for a CT scan. I genuinely wasn't. Now, in fairness, the pain medication was brilliant. But I wasn't thinking what happens if this happens or that happens. That was the doctor's responsibility.
Mm,
That's up to them to do their role.
mm,
My role was to stay calm, stay relaxed, to be, let the body do what it needs to do.
mm,
So I was thankful from the instant that happened that it could have been that could have been a game ender.
yeah.
And I was just happy to be alive, to be a broken arm, broken wrist. That can get sorted.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. And what about then navigating, because thriving is not about being perfect, it's not about being happy all the time. Obviously you said there that you did take a happy go lucky kind of banter approach, because that's how Bobby does things, but that's not thriving, is it? As in, thriving is not about always being happy, it's actually also having the skills to be able to bounce back from a shit day or a difficult situation.
Yeah. And you'll know the same as I do. That there's lots of days you're maybe not feeling great, and you're kind of thinking, God, 5 or 6 people to see today, and you know, I'm meant to be thriving here. And there's maybe a virus working on you, maybe there's a few things going on in your life. But again, it's in those circumstances, it's having that, well, do I feel sorry for myself here? Do I have that pity party per me? Or do I go in and, give the best that I've got? And I don't know, is it your experience, Lucy, but quite often those are the days when you come away from the sessions working with people and helping people, and you come away feeling great afterwards. So you
Mm.
didn't feel great before you started coaching other people, helping other people, and you've seen 4 or 5 people, and afterwards you're back feeling, yeah, glad to be alive again.
Yeah, so not letting those things stop you. I mean, if you were really ill, obviously you would, that self-care is about also looking after yourself and knowing your limit, knowing when it's the right thing to do to cancel or stay in bed or sit on the sofa. But when it's just a choice of, do I feel sorry for myself and tear the arse out of it and make it a bad day, or do I just crack on and get a lem sip and see what happens? And
Yeah,
if I need to cancel the later ones, I can. That's cool. And then, like you say, at the end of it, you can look back and think, wow, that was I thought that was going to be a trickier day, but I'm good.
yeah, and that definitely is one of the big changes in me since doing the Thrive program. Is I definitely would have been far quicker to throw in the towel and kind of say no, just not feeling it today. But it's that ability now to let's see how it goes.
Yes, yes. It's
And
curiosity, isn't it? It's the no pressure, the knowledge that whether you do it, whether you don't, either way is fine.
yeah, yeah. But I suppose you mentioned that there's this can come across, and it's one of my pet peeves about online stuff these days. If people are watching me and you hear it, and don't they look as if they've got it, all sorted? And that's just not true. It's not accurate. Every person alive has got their struggles, and thriving or not thriving, you're going to have you're going to have your challenges. Um, so we have to be really clear and really honest with people about that. I don't feel great all the time. I don't know anyone. I've never come across anyone who, uh, and like I've met some people and I've looked at them and I thought, wow, you're amazing. You're really inspirational. And I've been lucky enough to get chatting to them. And when you hear their backstory, you're realizing that person knows what pain is like.
Yeah.
That person's lost a child. That person's lost everything. Um, but through their pain, through their suffering, through their struggles, they did some work somewhere. Might have been Thrive, might have been something else. Quite often something else. But they've learned then. They've got that new perspective.
Mm.
I
Mm.
can cope with things. I can deal with things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's what thriving is. My personal definition, Lucy, of thriving, one of my definitions is how quickly can we realize that we're feeling bad or sad? How quickly can we realize that we're feeling that way, that our thoughts are feeling that way, or our self talk is really poor? How quickly can we identify that and then flip it and change it?
Yeah.
And for some people, if they can do that in a few hours, then that's better than the few months it would have taken them before.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you get really good at it, you can do it within a few minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
One of my clients has a click. Old clients now, but she originally was in the depths of anxiety, feeling low, bit life happening to me, but learnt to think in a powerful way, learnt to believe in herself, develop those skills and the resources. And now it's merely just it's her little way of sort of nudging her to say, no, I'm not going to spend my day thinking like that. And it's like a little nudge. I'm going to choose to do this. I'm going to be choosing to think about what I can do. That's when you've got it good. And then it is just a little nudge in your thinking. It's a little reminder. But you've got to know, because that sounds very simple and very flimsy. You've got to know that you have the power and that you have the choice. You've got to have worked on your beliefs. You've got to have built your self-esteem to get to that point. But it's all doable.
Yeah, and you have to have been doing that work for a while. I mean, one of my kind of things that I would kind of say to myself, is do I want to be that victim? So for me, that's the bit that really shocks me out of feeling sorry for myself
Yeah,
because I
yeah,
don't
yeah,
like I don't like being a victim. So do I want to play that role, be a victim per me,
yeah, 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 yeah.
or again we go back to that question: what can I do about that?
Yeah. I think one of my favorite little sayings I'll say to myself in my head when I'm faced with something, I'm like, oh, can't be bothered. Oh, I don't really want to do that. I don't know if I've got the energy. Oh, I'm a bit tired. I'll ask myself, what would help the tomorrow me? Like, what would help the Lucy tomorrow? If it would help the Lucy tomorrow and she wants to feel stronger and all the rest of it, then yeah, going to the gym when you feel a bit meh, that's the right thing to do. So that helps me to sort of navigate through that initial desire for comfort and desire for safety and whatever else and push through. Because otherwise, you can easily talk yourself out of doing anything when you don't fancy it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I suppose one of the other things I was thinking about this day was I remember a girl coming to see me one time, and she had done another program. You know, it was like a really intensive kind of. I think she paid about £5,000 a few years before coming to see me, and she said it was amazing. She said for 3 months after doing this program, she felt great. She's never felt better than those 3 months. But the difficulty she had was there was a 4 hour morning routine.
Wow.
Yeah, that she had in order to sustain that. There was a routine that she had to do for 4 hours every morning, and she did do that for 3 months. You know, she kind of just made sacrifices and choices with work, with family, and for 3 months it was amazing. But she couldn't possibly sustain that. So one of the differences with the Thrive program, and I would say that to people, is look, if you give it 10 or 15 minutes, you know, after you've done the program, you know, for a couple of months, after you've done the program, you give it 10 or 15 minutes, maybe half an hour if you want to do a lot of reading and stuff in there. These are a few things that like, you know, get you to do every day, and make sure you're putting it all into practice. You know, then you can keep making it's sustainable
Yeah.
effectively, and that's what I like about it. It's quite simple. It's not an academic program. Like it's really easy to understand. It's written in ordinary language. Um, Rob likes a few swear words occasionally, but they're managed out there.
Yeah.
Um, but it gives you solid stuff, practical stuff.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. You got to learn it. You got to understand it. But then the doing of it once you've got it doesn't take, it's just the little nudges during the day, isn't it, to keep yourself on track. So, summarize then, what is thriving? What does it mean to take responsibility, to take accountability?
Oh, big question, big finale. Thriving is just taking full responsibility for your thoughts, for your beliefs, for your self talk, and focusing on what am I going to do about that situation, and then critically, and this is the bit I wouldn't have been good at. It's then doing that,
Doing it. Yeah.
actually doing it. So you can have the best exercise program in the world, the best nutrition program in the world, and it's not going to help you. So we have to put the stuff into practice, and me and you, Lucy, we have to do that as well as coaches, as people. Um, so it's the putting the stuff into practice is the transformative element to it.
Yeah. 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 Very good. Very good. Well, thanks, Bobby. Insightful topic, lots to chew over and think about. And if anyone has any questions about anything that we've talked about, then they can reach out to you. They can get in touch or comment under whatever platform you're listening or watching this on. So thanks very much.
No problem. Thank you very much.